The landscape of Cambodia today belays a history of immense power and sophistication. For over 6 centuries, from the 9th to the 15th century CE, the Khmer Empire dominated Southeast Asia. Its rulers, claiming divine descent from Shiva, carved an empire out of jungle and ambition, leaving behind architectural marvels that continue to inspire awe. This is the story of Angkor, a civilization built on irrigation, innovation, and ultimately vulnerability. We'll trace its rise from humble beginnings as a regional power to a sprawling kingdom encompassing much of modern-day Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam. The origins of the Khmer Empire are shrouded in some mystery. While earlier kingdoms existed, the true genesis lies with Jayavarman II, who declared himself a Chakravarti, or universal ruler. In 802 CE, this act of self-coronation marked a decisive break from previous rulers and established the foundation for an independent Khmer state. He consolidated power by eliminating rival claimants and establishing a system based on divine kingship, a concept deeply rooted in Hindu cosmology. Jayavarman's legacy was not simply political, it was the blueprint for a kingdom built around religious legitimacy. Early Khmer society was stratified, a complex hierarchy dictated social mobility and power. At its apex stood the king, considered divine. Below him were nobles, priests, warriors, merchants, artisans, and finally the vast majority of the population, farmers bound to the land. The economy thrived on rice cultivation, supported by an intricate network of reservoirs and canals, a testament to Khmer engineering prowess. This agricultural surplus fueled not only the kingdom's growth, but also its ability to support monumental construction projects that would define its legacy. The construction of Angkor began with Jayavarman Sepin's successors, but it was Suryavarman II who commissioned perhaps the most iconic structure, Angkor Wat. Dedicated to Vishnu, this massive temple city is an architectural masterpiece representing Mount Meru, the home of the gods in Hindu mythology. Its intricate carvings depict scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata, providing invaluable insights into Khmer religious beliefs and artistic practices. The sheer scale of Angkor Wat demonstrates the empire's immense resources and sophisticated organizational capabilities. Angkor was more than just temples, it was a thriving urban center. A complex system of barrays, enormous artificial reservoirs, provided water for irrigation and transportation, supporting a dense population within the city walls. These barrays also served as symbolic representations of the cosmic ocean. The Khmer engineers were masters of hydraulics, creating an intricate network that allowed them to control the seasonal floods and maximize agricultural output. This infrastructure was essential for maintaining the empire's power and prosperity. Jayavarman Visu, ruling in the late 12th century, marked a significant shift. He converted the empire to Mahayana Buddhism, although elements of Hinduism persisted. This transition is evident in his monumental construction projects, including Bayon, a temple adorned with hundreds of smiling faces that are believed to represent Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion. Jayavarman Desai's reign was also characterized by extensive road building and the establishment of rest houses for travelers, demonstrating a commitment to public welfare. The Khmer military was formidable, employing a combination of infantry, cavalry, and war elephants. They successfully defended their borders against neighboring kingdoms like Champa and Dai Viet for centuries. However, this constant warfare also placed a strain on the empire's resources. The elaborate court system demanded significant tribute from conquered territories, further contributing to internal tensions. Maintaining such a vast military machine required an immense and ever-increasing supply of manpower and provisions. By the 13th century, a series of factors began to erode the Khmer Empire's dominance. Recurring droughts and floods severely impacted agricultural production, leading to famine and social unrest. Furthermore, incursions by neighboring kingdoms, particularly from Champa and Dai Viet, increasingly challenged their control over territory and trade routes. These external pressures coincided with internal power struggles and a gradual decline in centralized authority. The sack of Angkor by Cham forces in 1431 CE proved to be a pivotal moment. While the city was eventually retaken, the damage had been done. The empire's political and economic center gradually shifted eastward, leaving behind the magnificent temples of Angkor as silent witnesses to its former glory. This event marked the beginning of a long period of decline and fragmentation for the Khmer kingdom, although remnants of their culture continued to thrive in smaller principalities. The legacy of the Khmer Empire endures today in Cambodia's cultural identity and the awe-inspiring ruins of Angkor. These monumental structures stand as testaments to a civilization that achieved remarkable feats of engineering, artistry, and governance. While the empire ultimately fell victim to internal strife and external pressures, its impact on Southeast Asia remains profound, a reminder of the cyclical nature of power and the enduring power of human ingenuity. The story of Angkor is far from over. It continues to be revealed through ongoing archaeological discoveries. The rise and fall of the Khmer Empire serves as a powerful reminder of the cyclical nature of history, of empires built on ingenuity and agricultural innovation, only to be brought low by internal divisions, external pressures, and environmental vulnerabilities. Though its political dominion vanished centuries ago, the legacy of Angkor endures, a testament to the enduring spirit of the Khmer people and their remarkable contributions to Southeast Asian civilization. The stones still whisper stories of kings and gods, farmers and warriors, a lost world waiting to be rediscovered. By the mid-9th century, Jayavarman IV's reign was marked by internal strife and a weakening of centralized power. He constructed his own temple city, Khmer, deliberately challenging the authority of Indrapura and its existing grand structures. This act demonstrated a fracturing within the Khmer elite. Ambitious individuals sought to carve out independent domains. The shifting allegiance of provincial governors and military commanders undermined Jayavarman IV's control, creating an environment ripe for further instability. His reign, though relatively short, accelerated the decentralization that would define the late 9th century. Jayavarman IV's death triggered a period of near civil war. His successor, Yasovarman I, swiftly moved to reassert royal authority. He consolidated power through military campaigns and strategic alliances, eventually defeating the supporters of Khmer. Yasovarman I's most significant achievement was the construction of Angkor Wat's precursor, Bakong Mountain Temple. This ambitious project served not only as a religious center, but also as a powerful symbol of his restored dominance, emphasizing a return to centralized rule after years of fragmentation. Yasovarman I's reign saw a resurgence in monumental building projects, mirroring earlier periods of Khmer prosperity. However, he also implemented significant changes to agricultural practices, including the expansion of the Baray system, vast reservoirs that provided irrigation for rice cultivation. This enhanced food production supported a growing population and fueled economic growth, but also increased the empire's vulnerability to drought and environmental fluctuations. The reliance on intensive agriculture created a precarious balance between abundance and potential famine. Following Yasovarman I's death, a succession crisis erupted, leading to another period of instability. His son, Ishanavarman I, faced challenges from rivals vying for the throne. This internal conflict weakened the empire and created an opportunity for external threats. The Cham people, traditional Khmer enemies from present-day Vietnam, seized upon this vulnerability, launching raids into Khmer territory. These incursions disrupted trade routes and further destabilized the kingdom. The mid-10th century witnessed a significant shift in religious practices within the Khmer Empire. While Hinduism remained dominant, elements of Mahayana Buddhism began to gain prominence amongst certain segments of the population and even within the royal court. This syncretism, the blending of different religious beliefs, would become increasingly characteristic of later Khmer culture. It reflected a gradual evolution away from strict adherence to orthodox Hindu traditions and towards a more tolerant and inclusive spiritual landscape. Suryavarman I, ascending to the throne in Thano II AD, proved to be a pivotal figure. He consolidated his power through military victories against the Chams and reasserted Khmer dominance over much of Southeast Asia. Recognizing the importance of infrastructure, Suryavarman I initiated ambitious construction projects, including new canals and roads, facilitating trade and communication throughout the empire. His reign marked a period of renewed prosperity and expansion, laying the groundwork for the Golden Age that would follow. The reigns of Udayadyavarman II and Suryavarman II, while relatively short, are inextricably linked to the construction of Angkor Wat. Suryavarman II, in particular, dedicated his reign to this monumental undertaking, a temple designed to embody Mount Meru, the mythical home of the gods. The sheer scale of Angkor Wat's construction required an immense mobilization of resources and manpower. It stands as a testament to the Khmer Empire's engineering prowess and unwavering devotion. Angkor Wat wasn't merely a religious monument, it was also a powerful statement of Khmer political authority. Its precise alignment with astronomical events, particularly the equinoxes, reinforced the king's divine mandate to rule and legitimized his position as intermediary between the earthly realm and the gods. The temple served as both a place of worship and a stage for royal ceremonies, further solidifying Suryavarman Teller's power. Despite its grandeur, the Khmer Empire's reliance on an extensive network of canals and reservoirs created vulnerabilities. Prolonged droughts, or even periods of unusually heavy rainfall, could have devastating consequences for rice production and overall stability. Evidence suggests that climate change, both prolonged dry spells and intense monsoon seasons, played a significant role in weakening the empire during the 13th century. The Cham resurgence, coupled with internal power struggles and environmental pressures, created an increasingly fragile environment within the Khmer Empire. Jayavarman Visita's reign, though marked by significant building projects including Angkor Thom and the Bayon Temple, also saw a deepening reliance on Mahayana Buddhism and a gradual shift in political dynamics. The seeds of decline had been sown long before the arrival of the Siamese armies, highlighting the complex interplay of internal weaknesses and external threats that would ultimately contribute to the empire's downfall. By the mid-12th century, Jayavarman VII's ambitious construction program had reshaped Angkor. His focus shifted dramatically from Shiva worship to Buddhism, specifically Mahayana Buddhism. This ideological shift profoundly influenced Khmer art and architecture. The Bayon Temple, with its enigmatic smiling faces of Avalokiteshvara, epitomizes this new religious fervor. While Jayavarman Vihar's reign brought unparalleled prosperity and infrastructural development, roads, bridges, rest houses, it also placed an immense strain on the empire's resources, potentially sowing seeds for future instability. The sudden death of Jayavarman V around 1218 marked a turning point. His successors, lacking his vision and authority, struggled to maintain the vast empire and its complex infrastructure. The construction projects had depleted the treasury and created a large bureaucracy that became increasingly burdensome. Furthermore, the shift in religious policy alienated traditional Shiva worshippers, potentially fracturing societal cohesion. This period witnessed growing internal dissent and increasing vulnerability to external threats. The Cham people, long-time rivals of the Khmer Empire, seized this opportunity for renewed aggression. Under their king Suryavarman II, not to be confused with the builder of Angkor Wat, they launched a series of raids into Khmer territory in the late 12th and early 13th centuries. While the Khmer armies initially repelled these attacks, the constant warfare further drained resources and manpower. The Cham resurgence demonstrated that the empire's military dominance was no longer absolute. Internal power struggles also intensified during this period. Successors to Jayavarman II often faced challenges to their legitimacy, leading to civil strife and fragmentation of royal authority. Provincial governors began asserting greater autonomy, weakening the central government's control over distant regions. This decentralization made it increasingly difficult to coordinate defense efforts or enforce imperial decrees. The foundations of a unified empire were beginning to crumble. The Mongol invasions of the 13th century, though not directly impacting Angkor initially, created instability throughout Southeast Asia. The disruption of trade routes and increased military activity across the region had ripple effects on the Khmer economy and diplomatic relations. While Kublai Khan did send envoys to Jayavarman Vela requesting tribute, Khmer resistance prevented a full-scale invasion at this stage. The decline in agricultural productivity also contributed to Angkor's woes. Evidence suggests a gradual shift in monsoon patterns during this period, leading to decreased rainfall and crop failures. The elaborate irrigation system, crucial for sustaining the dense population of Angkor, struggled to cope with these changing climatic conditions. Famine and disease became increasingly prevalent, weakening the empire's resilience. By the 14th century, the Thai kingdom of Sukhothai began to emerge as a significant power in the region. Initially vassals of Angkor, the Thais gradually asserted their independence and launched campaigns against Khmer territories. These conflicts further weakened the empire's defenses and demonstrated its declining military prowess. The once impregnable borders were now porous and vulnerable. The sack of Angkor by Jayadalatha of Sukhothai in 1430 marked a pivotal moment, while not a complete destruction. This raid demonstrated the Khmer Empire's vulnerability and severely undermined its prestige. Many skilled artisans and laborers were taken captive, depleting Angkor's human capital. The event sent shockwaves throughout the empire, further accelerating its disintegration. Following the 1430 raid, the Khmer court relocated to Phnom Penh, abandoning Angkor as its capital. This shift symbolized the end of the empire's golden age and marked a period of decline and fragmentation. While Khmer culture persisted in smaller kingdoms scattered throughout the region, the unified empire had effectively ceased to exist. The glory days of Angkor were now relegated to memory. The reasons for the Khmer Empire's decline remain complex and are debated by historians. A combination of factors, religious upheaval, economic strain, environmental changes, internal conflicts, and external pressures ultimately contributed to its downfall. While Angkor's magnificent temples stand as a testament to Khmer ingenuity and power, they also serve as poignant reminders of the fragility of even the most impressive civilizations. By the mid-12th century, Jayavarman Vasa's ambitious construction projects had stretched the Khmer Empire's resources to their limit. While his devotion to Buddhism and extensive public works, hospitals, rest houses, temples brought immense benefit to the populace, the sheer scale of these endeavors placed an unprecedented burden on the empire's infrastructure and manpower. Agricultural production struggled to keep pace with demand, and localized rebellions began to simmer in outlying provinces, fueled by resentment over forced labor and heavy taxation. The seeds of future instability were being sown amidst the grandeur of Angkor. The Champa Kingdom, a long-standing rival to the Khmer Empire situated south of modern Vietnam, seized upon Angkor's weakened state. In 1177 CE, a Cham invasion led by King Suryavarman II breached the empire's northern defenses. Jayavarman Veetasevai was away on campaign at the time, and his absence proved disastrous. The Cham forces sacked Angkor, looting its treasures and desecrating its sacred temples. This shocking event sent tremors throughout the Khmer world, shattering the illusion of invincibility that had surrounded the empire for centuries. Jayavarman V swiftly returned with his army, ultimately defeating the Cham forces and driving them back. However, the damage was done. The invasion exposed critical vulnerabilities within the Khmer military and administrative systems. The loss of Angkor's prestige significantly undermined Jayavarman's authority, and many provinces began to assert their independence, further fragmenting the empire. While he managed to restore order, the underlying issues remained unresolved, casting a long shadow over the future. Following Jayavarman Vila's death around 1218 CE, a period of internal strife and dynastic struggles ensued. Successors lacked his charisma and political acumen, struggling to maintain control over the increasingly fragmented empire. The costly campaigns against Champa continued, draining resources and manpower. Traditional Khmer beliefs began to resurface, challenging Jayavarman Thesauer's promotion of Mahayana Buddhism, contributing to social unrest and religious divisions within the realm. The Mongol Empire under Kublai Khan began exerting pressure on Southeast Asia during the 13th century. While direct invasion never materialized, Mongol envoys were dispatched to Angkor demanding tribute. This humiliation, coupled with ongoing internal conflicts and Cham raids, severely weakened the Khmer's ability to resist external threats. The empire's once imposing military was now a shadow of its former self, unable to effectively defend its vast territories. The shifting trade routes of the Indian Ocean further contributed to Angkor's decline. The rise of Malacca as a major trading hub bypassed traditional Khmer ports, diminishing the empire's economic importance and reducing its revenue from international commerce. This loss of economic power exacerbated existing financial difficulties and made it increasingly difficult for the rulers to fund their armies and maintain infrastructure. In 1431 CE, Angkor suffered another devastating attack. This time, it was not the Cham but Ayutthaya, the rising Siamese kingdom to the west. The Siamese forces breached the city's defenses and systematically looted and burned much of the complex. While some temples were spared, the symbolic heart of the Khmer Empire lay in ruins. This event marked a turning point. The capital was abandoned. The Khmer court retreated eastward to Phnom Penh, establishing a new capital further away from Ayutthaya's reach. However, the empire was now significantly reduced in size and power. The elaborate irrigation systems that had sustained Angkor's agricultural prosperity gradually fell into disrepair, contributing to famine and economic hardship among the surviving population. The once unified Khmer identity began to fracture along regional lines. Over the subsequent centuries, Khmer rulers were forced to pay tribute to Ayutthaya, effectively becoming vassals. Sporadic rebellions occurred, but they were quickly suppressed by the Siamese overlords. The Khmer language and culture persisted, albeit in a diminished form, influenced by Thai customs and traditions. Angkor itself was gradually swallowed by the jungle, its magnificent temples slowly decaying under the relentless forces of nature. The formal annexation of the Khmer kingdom into Siam occurred in 1860, officially ending centuries of independent rule. While remnants of Khmer culture and traditions endure today within Cambodia, the Grand Khmer Empire, a civilization that once rivaled Rome or China, faded into history, leaving behind an extraordinary legacy etched in stone amidst the ruins of Angkor. Its rise was remarkable, its fall a poignant reminder of the fragility of even the greatest empires. By the mid-12th century, Jayavarman the Dullar's ambitious construction program had stretched the Khmer Empire's resources to their limit. While his devotion to Buddhism brought prosperity and infrastructure improvements like the West Baray Reservoir, the sudden shift from Hinduism created internal tensions amongst the Brahmin priestly class and traditional nobility. The immense cost of projects such as Angkor Thom and the Bayon Temple also imposed a heavy burden on the peasantry, leading to increased taxation and potential unrest in outlying provinces. This period witnessed subtle shifts in power dynamics that would ultimately contribute to the empire's weakening. The Champa kingdom, long a thorn in Cambodia's side, experienced its own internal turmoil. Repeated Khmer incursions had destabilized their rule, but by the late 12th century they were poised to capitalize on Angkor's vulnerabilities. The Cham people, skilled seafarers and warriors, proved adept at raiding coastal settlements and disrupting trade routes vital to the Khmer economy. This constant pressure diverted resources away from internal development and defense against other potential threats further north. In 1181, Jaya Harivarman Suwa was assassinated in what is believed to be a conspiracy involving Champa. This event plunged Angkor into a period of instability and civil war. While Jayavarman Vasudhara eventually ascended the throne, his early reign was marked by conflict, allowing the Cham kingdom to launch a devastating invasion into Cambodia's heartland. The sacking of Angkor in 1181 was a deeply traumatic event for the Khmer people, shattering the myth of invincibility that had surrounded their empire. Jayavarman Vseva's response to the Champa invasion was brutal. He launched a series of counter-offensives that ultimately crushed the Cham kingdom, but at a significant cost. Years of warfare drained resources and manpower, leaving Angkor vulnerable to new threats. The rebuilding process after the invasion also placed an enormous strain on the Khmer economy. While Jayavarman Visid restored order, the empire never fully recovered from this period of intense conflict. The Mongol Empire, expanding relentlessly across Asia during the 13th century, presented a new and formidable challenge to Angkor. While geographically distant, their influence and power were felt throughout Southeast Asia through trade disruption and diplomatic pressure. Though direct invasion didn't occur immediately, the Mongols' presence signaled a shift in the global balance of power, one that would ultimately disadvantage the Khmer Empire. Jayavarman Desai's death around 1218 marked the beginning of a slow decline. His successors were less capable rulers, unable to maintain the empire's vast infrastructure and defend its borders effectively. The centralized authority that had characterized Khmer rule began to erode as regional governors asserted greater independence. This decentralization weakened the empire's ability to respond to external threats and internal challenges. The Siamese kingdom of Ayutthaya, steadily growing in power to the west, began probing Khmer borders. Initially, these were minor raids, but they grew increasingly bolder over time. The weakened state of Angkor made it an easy target for Ayutthayan expansionism. Khmer armies, depleted by years of warfare and internal strife, proved unable to effectively resist the Siamese incursions. In 1431, Ayutthaya launched a full-scale invasion that proved catastrophic for the Khmer Empire. Angkor was sacked and looted once again, marking a definitive turning point in its history. While the capital shifted eastward to Phnom Penh, the glory days of Angkor were over. The loss of Angkor symbolized the collapse of the empire's cultural and political dominance. Following the fall of Angkor, Cambodia became a tributary state of Ayutthaya, subject to Siamese overlordship. Khmer rulers continued to exist but lacked true autonomy. The empire's vast territory fragmented into smaller principalities, constantly vying for power and influence. While pockets of Khmer culture persisted, the centralized imperial structure had irrevocably dissolved. Despite its eventual decline and absorption into Siam, the legacy of the Khmer Empire endures. The magnificent temples of Angkor stand as a testament to the ingenuity and artistic prowess of the Khmer people. Though the empire itself vanished, its cultural influence continues to shape Cambodia's identity and remains a source of national pride, inspiring awe and wonder in visitors from around the world. By the mid-12th century, Suryavarman II's ambitious construction projects had begun to strain the empire's resources. The sheer scale of Angkor Wat, while a testament to Khmer power and devotion, required immense labor and logistical support. While initially funded through royal lands and tribute, the burden on the peasantry grew increasingly unsustainable. This economic pressure coincided with shifting monsoon patterns and potential environmental degradation exacerbated by intensive rice cultivation, contributing to growing internal dissent and vulnerability. The Chams, long-time rivals to the Khmer Empire, seized this opportunity for resurgence. Led by King Jayavarman VI, they launched a major invasion in 1177 CE. The Khmer army, weakened by economic woes and potentially internal divisions, proved unable to effectively resist. Contemporary inscriptions and later Javanese accounts describe a devastating defeat at the Battle of Tonle Sap, marking a pivotal turning point in Khmer history. The fall of Angkor in 1177 CE wasn't a complete collapse, but rather a shattering. Suryavarman II was captured and imprisoned, although accounts differ on his ultimate fate. The Khmer court fled south to the region around modern-day Phnom Penh, establishing a new capital at Angkor Borei. This marked the beginning of a period known as the Dark Ages of Khmer history, a time characterized by political fragmentation, instability, and diminished artistic output. The Cham victory proved short-lived. Just 2 decades later, the Javanese Srivijaya kingdom, allied with disgruntled Khmer factions, invaded Champa in 1190 CE, effectively dismantling their power and paving the way for a Khmer resurgence. This intervention highlights the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized Southeast Asia during this period. It also demonstrates that the Khmer dynasty, though weakened, was not entirely extinguished. Jayavarman VII, a prince who had been held captive by the Chams, ascended to the throne around 1181 CE. He is considered one of Angkor's greatest rulers, though his reign was marked by both rebuilding and significant shifts in religious policy. Initially embracing Mahayana Buddhism, he initiated an unprecedented building program focused on Buddhist temples and hospitals, transforming the architectural landscape of Angkor. Taprom stands as a striking example of Jayavarman Visai's architectural vision. Unlike Angkor Wat's grandeur dedicated to Vishnu, Tayaprom was built in honor of his mother and reflects a more intimate, personal approach to religious expression. Its design incorporates natural elements, allowing jungle growth to intertwine with the stonework, foreshadowing the eventual fate of many other Angkorian temples. Jayavarman Visai's reign also marked a shift in Khmer governance. While maintaining the concept of divine kingship, he implemented reforms aimed at improving infrastructure and public services. The construction of roads, bridges, and rest houses facilitated trade and communication throughout the empire. However, his embrace of Mahayana Buddhism alienated some conservative elements within the Brahmanical priesthood. Despite Jayavarman V's efforts to rebuild and consolidate power, the underlying issues of economic strain and political fragility remained. The shift in religious focus also created internal divisions that would contribute to future instability. His successors were less capable rulers, unable to maintain the momentum of his ambitious projects or effectively address the empire's long-term challenges. The 13th and 14th centuries witnessed a gradual decentralization of power within the Khmer Empire. Regional governors gained increasing autonomy, challenging the authority of the central government in Angkor. Combined with recurring Cham raids and internal rebellions, this erosion of control significantly weakened the empire's ability to defend its borders or maintain economic stability. The final blow came in 1431 CE, with a devastating invasion by Althaya, the rising Siamese kingdom. Angkor was sacked and looted, marking the effective end of the Khmer Empire's dominance. While the Khmer kings relocated further south to Phnom Penh, they remained vassals of Ayutthaya, ushering in a new era of Thai influence over Cambodia and signaling the twilight of an extraordinary civilization. The reign of Suryavarman circa 113–150 marked a zenith for Angkor. He initiated the construction of Angkor Wat, initially dedicated to Vishnu, but later transitioning to Shiva. This monumental temple complex was not merely a place of worship, it represented Mount Meru, the mythical home of the gods in Hindu cosmology. Its vast scale and intricate carvings demanded an unprecedented mobilization of resources, demonstrating Suryavarman Tiller's immense power and ambition. The construction efforts likely strained the empire's economy, foreshadowing future vulnerabilities that would contribute to its eventual decline. Angkor Wat's layout itself reveals sophisticated astronomical understanding. Its orientation aligns precisely with the sunrise during the equinoxes, suggesting a deep connection to celestial events and their perceived influence on Khmer society. The bas-relief carvings that adorn its walls depict scenes from Hindu epics like the Ramayana and Mahabharata, reinforcing the empire's cultural identity and legitimizing Suryavarman Tellai's rule through divine association. These narratives served as both entertainment and religious instruction for a largely illiterate population. Following Suryavarman II's death, political instability began to surface. Jayavarman V's 1181–12 ascended to power after a Cham invasion and subsequent civil war. This period of upheaval exposed vulnerabilities in the Khmer military and highlighted growing tensions with neighboring kingdoms. While Jayavarman II would later usher in an era of extensive Buddhist construction, the preceding conflict left a lasting mark on the empire's resources and its ability to defend against external threats. Jayavarman V's conversion to Mahayana Buddhism brought significant changes. He ordered the dismantling of Hindu temples and initiated construction projects dedicated to Buddhist deities, most notably the Bayon at Angkor Thom. While these structures are impressive feats of engineering, the shift in religious focus arguably alienated segments of the population who remained devout Hindus, contributing to internal divisions within Khmer society. The vast network of barays, artificial reservoirs, that characterized the Khmer landscape was crucial for irrigation and transportation. However, these complex hydraulic systems required constant maintenance and were vulnerable to environmental factors like prolonged droughts or excessive monsoon rains. Evidence suggests that changes in rainfall patterns during the 13th century significantly impacted agricultural yields, contributing to economic hardship within the empire. The Cham continued to pose a persistent threat throughout much of the 13th century. While Khmer forces achieved victories, these conflicts drained resources and manpower. The repeated incursions disrupted trade routes and agricultural production, further weakening Angkor's economic foundations. This constant state of warfare diverted attention from internal issues and prevented the empire from fully recovering from previous setbacks. The Mongol invasions of Southeast Asia in the late 13th century, though not directly targeting Angkor, had significant indirect consequences. The Mongols disrupted trade networks across Asia, impacting Angkor's access to essential goods and contributing to economic decline. Furthermore, the political instability created by the Mongol expansion encouraged neighboring kingdoms to challenge Khmer dominance. By the 14th century, Ayutthaya, a rising power in Siam, modern-day Thailand, began to exert increasing influence over Khmer affairs. Repeated military campaigns by Ayutthayan forces weakened Angkor's defenses and eroded its authority. The shifting political landscape demonstrated that Angkor's regional hegemony was no longer secure. It faced competition from a more assertive neighbor. In 1431, Angkor finally fell to Ayutthayan forces under King Brahmaraja I. While the exact circumstances remain debated, some accounts suggest a negotiated surrender rather than outright conquest. The event marked a symbolic end to the Khmer Empire's dominance. The capital was abandoned, and the Khmer court relocated further southeast, initiating a period of decline and fragmentation. Despite the abandonment of Angkor, Khmer culture and traditions persisted among scattered settlements throughout Cambodia. The legacy of the empire's architectural achievements, religious beliefs, and artistic innovations continued to shape Cambodian identity for centuries. While Angkor's political power vanished, its cultural influence remains a vibrant testament to the ingenuity and resilience of the Khmer people. By the late 13th century, Angkor's agricultural system, once a marvel of engineering, began to falter. Decades of erratic monsoon seasons severely impacted rice yields. The complex network of reservoirs and canals, vital for irrigation, struggled to manage increasingly unpredictable rainfall patterns. Simultaneously, overpopulation strained resources within the urban core, leading to localized famines and social unrest. While Jayavarman Ikes attempted reforms, his efforts proved insufficient to combat these mounting environmental and socio-economic pressures, laying bare the vulnerabilities inherent in a highly centralized agrarian empire. The weakening of Khmer authority attracted external attention. The kingdom of Ayutthaya, a rising power in Siam, represented an increasing threat. Initially, Ayutthayan incursions were limited to raids and the seizure of tribute. However, these acts of aggression destabilized Angkor's borders and weakened its military capabilities. Khmer armies, often embroiled in internal conflicts or stretched thin across vast territories, found it difficult to effectively repel these growing challenges from the east. The seeds of open warfare had been sown. In 1431, King Panhayat initiated a pivotal shift in Khmer history. Facing relentless pressure from Ayutthaya and internal dissent, he decided to abandon Angkor as the capital. The royal court relocated eastward to Phnom Penh, closer to the Mekong River delta and further away from the now vulnerable northern territories. This decision, while strategically necessary for survival, marked the symbolic end of Angkor's reign as the heart of the Khmer Empire. The grandeur and prestige associated with Angkor began a slow but irreversible decline. The relocation to Phnom Penh didn't erase the Khmer identity or entirely sever ties with Angkor. Periodic ceremonies and religious pilgrimages continued to be made to the abandoned city, preserving its sacred significance in the collective memory. However, the capital's shift fundamentally altered the empire's political structure and strategic focus. The new location offered access to vital trade routes along the Mekong, but also exposed the Khmer kingdom to new vulnerabilities and shifting alliances within Southeast Asia. The post-Angkor period witnessed a fragmentation of power. Smaller principalities and vassal states emerged, vying for influence within the weakened empire. Ayutthaya continued to exert considerable control over Khmer affairs, often installing puppet rulers on the throne. This era was characterized by constant political maneuvering, shifting allegiances, and frequent conflicts between rival factions. The centralized authority that had defined the Angkorian period was replaced by a decentralized landscape of competing interests. Despite the political turmoil, Khmer culture continued to evolve. Theravada Buddhism, already present during the Angkorian period, became increasingly dominant, shaping religious practices and artistic expression. While grand construction projects ceased, skilled artisans maintained their traditions, creating intricate carvings and sculptures that reflected both Khmer heritage and evolving influences from neighboring kingdoms. The spirit of innovation persisted, albeit within a different context. European contact began in the mid-16th century with Portuguese traders seeking access to Southeast Asian markets. These early encounters were initially characterized by trade and diplomatic exchanges, but soon escalated into conflicts over control of commerce and resources. The Khmer kingdom, already weakened by internal divisions and external pressures, found itself caught between competing European powers and intensifying regional rivalries. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in its complex history. The 17th and 18th centuries were marked by further instability and foreign interference. Vietnam expanded its influence into Cambodia, exploiting internal divisions to exert control over territories in the eastern regions. Ayutthaya's dominance was eventually superseded by a new Burmese empire, which briefly conquered Phnom Penh in 1635. These periods of occupation and intervention significantly hampered Khmer sovereignty and exacerbated existing political fragmentation. The late 18th and early 19th centuries saw a gradual resurgence of Khmer power under Ang Nanai and Ang Duong. They attempted to consolidate control over the fragmented territories and resist Vietnamese expansion. However, their efforts were ultimately undermined by continued internal divisions and renewed foreign interference. The legacy of Angkor's decline had created a deeply fractured political landscape that proved difficult to overcome. A period of French colonization loomed on the horizon. The story of the Khmer Empire is not one of complete collapse, but rather of transformation and adaptation. While Angkor's physical grandeur faded, its cultural legacy endured. The Khmer people absorbed external influences while retaining their unique identity, a testament to their resilience and adaptability. Though no longer a dominant regional power, the descendants of the Angkorian kings continued to rule Cambodia, carrying with them the weight of history and the echoes of a once mighty empire. By the late 15th century, cracks were appearing within Angkor's once impregnable defenses. Internal power struggles between royal factions intensified, diverting resources from essential infrastructure projects and weakening the empire's ability to respond to external threats. The sophisticated irrigation systems, vital for agricultural prosperity, began to fall into disrepair due to neglect and mismanagement. This economic decline fueled social unrest amongst the populace and created fertile ground for rebellion. Whispers of discontent turned into open defiance as the Khmer elite battled for control. The Ayutthaya kingdom of Siam, steadily growing in power and influence, recognized these vulnerabilities. King Baramaraka II, an ambitious ruler eager to expand his territory, began probing Angkor's borders with increasingly aggressive raids. These incursions weren't just about conquest, they were designed to destabilize the Khmer kingdom further. Exploiting existing internal divisions, the Ayutthayan army, composed of skilled warriors and equipped with advanced weaponry, proved a formidable challenge against a Khmer military weakened by decades of internal conflict. In 1431, Ayutthaya launched a devastating full-scale invasion. The Khmer armies, already depleted by internal strife, were unable to mount an effective defense. Key temples and strategic infrastructure were systematically targeted and destroyed. While Angkor itself wasn't completely razed, the sheer scale of its construction made total destruction impractical. The invaders inflicted significant damage and seized vast swaths of territory. This marked a turning point. The Khmer Empire's dominance in Southeast Asia was irrevocably broken. Following the 1431 invasion, the Khmer court retreated eastward to Phnom Penh, establishing it as their new capital. This relocation was more than just a physical move. It signified a symbolic shift away from the grandeur and power of Angkor. The vast temple complex, once the heart of the empire, was gradually abandoned, left to the encroaching jungle. While religious ceremonies continued at some temples, the era of monumental construction and centralized authority had effectively ended. The decline wasn't solely attributable to Ayutthaya's military pressure. Environmental factors also played a crucial role. Prolonged droughts and potential shifts in monsoon patterns likely contributed to agricultural failures, exacerbating existing economic problems. The elaborate irrigation system, once a source of strength, may have become unsustainable due to changing rainfall patterns or mismanagement. This combination of political instability and environmental stress created a perfect storm that hastened the empire's decline. Despite their weakened state, the Khmer kings continued to rule from Phnom Penh, attempting to maintain a semblance of authority. However, they were largely reduced to vassals under Ayutthayan overlordship for several decades. Sporadic rebellions and attempts at regaining independence flared up occasionally, but were quickly suppressed by the Siamese. The once proud Khmer nobility fragmented into competing factions vying for limited power and influence within the diminished kingdom. The jungle relentlessly reclaimed Angkor. Massive tree roots began to strangle the temples, slowly but surely dismantling centuries of human endeavor. Wildlife flourished within the abandoned city, turning the magnificent structures into habitats for monkeys, birds, and other creatures. This natural process of decay served as a powerful visual metaphor for the empire's fading glory, nature triumphing over human ambition. The 16th and 17th centuries witnessed further fragmentation of the Khmer kingdom. Portuguese traders seeking access to Southeast Asian markets became increasingly involved in regional politics, often playing rival factions against each other. Ayutthaya continued its dominance, periodically intervening in Khmer affairs to maintain control. The legacy of Angkor was preserved primarily through local traditions and folklore, whispered down through generations. In 1867, King Norodom unified much of Cambodia under his rule, ending centuries of internal conflict and external domination. While Angkor remained largely forgotten by the outside world for centuries, its rediscovery in the 19th century by French explorers sparked renewed interest in Khmer history and culture. The painstaking process of restoration began, revealing the astonishing scale and artistry of this once great civilization. The fall of the Khmer Empire serves as a cautionary tale about the fragility of even the most powerful civilizations. Internal divisions, environmental pressures, and external threats combined to bring down an empire that once dominated Southeast Asia for centuries. Today, Angkor stands as a testament to human ingenuity and ambition, a poignant reminder of both the heights we can reach and the inevitable decline that awaits all empires. By the late 15th century, Siamese expansion proved relentless. King Bupiyat of Ayutthaya launched a series of devastating campaigns, exploiting internal Khmer divisions and weakening infrastructure. The traditional system of hydraulic engineering vital for agriculture and defense began to crumble under constant raids and neglect. Royal authority fractured as regional governors asserted greater independence, further hindering any coordinated response. While Ang Chanai attempted resistance, the empire's once formidable military was no match for Ayutthaya's superior numbers and increasingly sophisticated weaponry. The seeds of collapse, sown over decades, finally blossomed into full-scale devastation. The sack of Angkor in 1431 marked a symbolic turning point. While not entirely destroying the city, it remained inhabited. The event shattered Khmer prestige and fundamentally altered the power dynamic. Ayutthaya's forces looted temples, seized treasures, and carried away skilled artisans and craftsmen, depriving Angkor of its vital human resources. The devastation extended beyond material loss. The psychological blow to the Khmer people was profound. Belief in divine protection waned as the once unassailable capital fell before foreign invaders. Royal courts relocated eastward, seeking refuge and attempting to rebuild a diminished kingdom. The Khmer court's eastward migration led to the establishment of new capitals, first at Phnom Penh, then Luvok. These locations offered greater defensibility and access to trade routes along the Mekong River. However, the loss of Angkor's fertile lands severely hampered agricultural production, leading to recurring famines and economic hardship. The fragmented political landscape persisted. Various claimants battled for power, often with Siamese support. This reliance on Ayutthaya further eroded Khmer sovereignty, transforming the kingdom into a tributary state subject to Siamese influence and control. The Ayutthaya kingdom itself faced internal struggles and external threats. However, their dominance over Cambodia remained largely unchallenged for centuries. The Khmer kings were forced to acknowledge Siamese overlordship, paying tribute and providing military assistance when requested. While some Khmer rulers attempted rebellion, notably Ang Chanai and his successors, these efforts were invariably crushed by the superior power of Ayutthaya. The once proud empire was reduced to a shadow of its former glory, its culture and traditions slowly adapting under Siamese influence. Despite subjugation, Khmer culture did not entirely disappear. Buddhist monasteries and Hindu temples continued to function, albeit often under Siamese supervision. Traditional arts, dance, music, literature were preserved through oral transmission and limited written records. However, the construction of monumental architecture largely ceased, reflecting the kingdom's diminished resources and political instability. A quiet resilience persisted among the Khmer people, a determination to maintain their cultural identity despite centuries of foreign rule. The French colonial period, beginning in the mid-19th century, introduced another layer of complexity. France gradually asserted control over Cambodia, initially with Siamese acquiescence, but eventually leading to a formal protectorate. This marked a shift in power dynamics, though Khmer autonomy remained severely limited. French presence brought infrastructure development and Western education, but also exploitation of resources and suppression of nationalist movements. The legacy of centuries of foreign influence became intertwined with the new colonial order. Archaeological rediscovery of Angkor played a crucial role in shaping the modern understanding of the Khmer Empire. French explorers and scholars like Henry Mouhot brought the lost city to Western attention, sparking renewed interest in its history and significance. Early excavations were often haphazard and driven by colonial agendas, but they laid the groundwork for more systematic research. The grandeur of Angkor became a powerful symbol of Cambodia's past glory, fueling nationalist sentiment in the 20th century. The restoration of Angkor has been a complex and ongoing process. Initial efforts were driven by French colonial authorities, but post-independence Cambodia assumed responsibility for preservation. However, political instability, including the brutal Khmer Rouge regime, severely hampered conservation efforts. The heavy use of pesticides in the 1980s damaged ancient sandstone structures, highlighting the challenges of safeguarding a fragile heritage amidst conflict and neglect. Today, Angkor Wat and the surrounding temples are UNESCO World Heritage Sites, attracting millions of tourists annually. Tourism provides vital economic benefits to Cambodia, but also poses environmental and cultural challenges. Balancing preservation with accessibility remains a delicate act, ensuring that future generations can appreciate the legacy of the Khmer Empire while minimizing damage from mass tourism. Sustainable practices and community involvement are crucial for long-term protection.